Well, at first, I didn't want to get a job because my husband told me I didn't have to. So then, can you imagine a few years later when I asked him, well, what did you do with this $25,000 that was missing from our bank? Apparently, he gave it to his sister so she could have a massive wedding, and he tells me, oh, that's my money. If you don't want me to spend money like that, how about you get a job? Well, you know what I told him?
I don't want to sound like one of those people who come on here to say their marriage is so good, but then turn around and start complaining about all these little things that people call red flags. You know, for the most part, my marriage did seem good enough until this one thing happened, which has kind of helped knock the rose-colored glasses off. Now, I see how things truly are, and it's not a pretty sight. When my husband and I decided to go ahead and get married, we decided that if and when we have kids, I would be the one to stay at home and raise them until we went back to school. You know, then I could go back to work while they were in school, and it wasn't something I minded doing. My parents did it, so did his parents, so for me it seemed like the next logical step. But working at a career was also something I imagined myself doing. See, I wanted to go into journalism since I was a young little child, and when I got to college, this was what I got my whole degree in. I did work for some publications for a while, even after my husband and I got married. We decided I wasn't going to stay home until we got pregnant. It wasn't like we were actively trying, but we also weren't taking many precautions to prevent this, you know. The two of us were going to have kids one day, and we were decided to let it be in God's hands. When I did discover that I was pregnant, I had just finished writing an article that ended with me getting a job offer that was one of the ones I dreamt of. But I was pregnant, so there was nothing else I could do but stick with the plan. Sure, I could have kept working, but I just kept thinking about what it would be like if I wasn't at home with my children. What would happen if I wasn't there to see them grow up during their most formative years? Plus, I was afraid to put them into a child care, you know, in case anything happened. When I told my husband, he was thrilled. I did end up telling him about the new job opportunity, but he also just reminded me of what I promised. He also went on to tell me that it would not be fair for the kids if there was not one parent at home. As long as he was working, he would make sure that he was providing a good life for everybody. I admit I do feel pressure. At any point, I was sure I could have said no, but it felt like I was letting everyone around me down. My parents, my in-laws, and most importantly, my hubby. What would he think if I went back on a promise and decided not to stay home with the kids? So I contacted the job and told them I wasn't going to be able to take the offer at this time. They seemed sad to hear that, but did wish me luck in the future. The pregnancy, it progressed really fine. See, we had a baby boy. I was thrilled when we had him, and honestly, once I saw his beautiful little face, I realized why I decided to stay at home. It's because I wanted to be able to see everything from his first little step, to see his first word, and beyond. There was this part of me that wished that I could still be working, but I decided that if I wasn't going to be able to work in an office, then I could try to do some freelance work from home, which I even mentioned to my husband. He was not thrilled, but said as long as I did not neglect my wifely and motherly duties, then it's fine. You know, I'm sure at this point some of you reading right now are wondering why I didn't slap him in the face for what he said. You have to understand that for me, this all is normal. I didn't question it until recently because of what my husband did, but this is just me jumping ahead, so let's wind it back. After my son was born, I ended up getting pregnant about a year or so later and having my daughter. It was after her that I asked my husband if he would consider a vasectomy. He said no, so this forced me to get on birth control. It wasn't like I didn't mind taking it, but the side effects were a bit of a pain. So I had no choice unless I wanted to deal with another pregnancy. 2 kids pretty much back to back were enough for me to handle right now. I don't think I would be able to take care of how 2 kids would be by myself. While also trying to handle what I work, I could manage to juggle between raising kids and taking care of the house, though. This was how my life was for a few years. But I should have also talked about another important part I haven't even mentioned yet. And this is my sister-in-law. See, from the start, I don't think my sister-in-law ever liked me. She was terrible from the get-go, always insulting me with what she thought was clever little jabs, and I loved my husband. So I tried not to let it bother me too much, and it worked for a while, but there were times when it got to me. And to make matters worse, my husband and in-laws were wrapped around her finger. Anything she wanted, she got, even if they could not get it to her. She had this way of getting them to do whatever she wanted. One way was by throwing the biggest tantrum I'd ever seen a grown woman throw. Kind of embarrassing when you think about it. But I ignored her and tried not to let her bother me because I loved my husband and family. It was important to make sure my family stayed together. This brings me to the current issue I'm facing right now. The only reason I'm talking about it is because I've recently discovered I need a lot of dental work. Because I was so busy with my children, I let it go for as long as that I could that I was going to need a lot of expensive dental work to be able to get my teeth in good order. But for some reason, when I got a response from our insurance company, they said that the deductible was never paid. So I was going to have to pay even more than I normally would, and it's safe to say that I was surprised. My first thought was to go to my husband. He told me that wasn't his problem, that there wasn't any money left for any medical for me. According to him, he had to use a large sum of money for something important. Yet when I asked him, okay, well, what'd you spend the money on? And how much? My husband refused to tell me. So, guys, can you imagine how that made me feel? He's trying to hold it over my head that I don't work, when it was him that wanted me to stay at home with our kids in the first place. Then he said that I can go ahead and get a job if I need money, which is crazy. Why the hell would I go and get a job when he was the one who wanted me to stay at home? It's so frustrating that my husband, the man that I love, is doing this to me. Do you guys have any advice for me? I'm at a loss for what to do now. On one hand, I'm furious at my husband because I need to find out what amount of money he spent and where it was spent. If it were a bill or something I needed to know about, surely he would have told me, right? That's what I kept telling myself, and the fact that he did not tell me means something. My husband wants to keep it a secret for some reason, meaning if I were to find out, then it would cause trouble between us. Please, just leave any suggestion or advice that you have below. I have no idea what I'm going to do at this point, but one thing is clear. I don't think that I can trust my husband or even stay in this marriage if he's refusing to be honest with me. There have always been little things along the way that bothered me, but now with this, it's making me remember them all. For the sake of my children, I'm going to have to push forward and do what is right. But the problem is, I have no idea what is right, and I'm afraid to push out my own after being a stay-at-home mom for so long. My one fear is that I won't be able to do it. So I'll end up, telling you guys more later, but for now I'm going to end this. I don't really know when the next update will come, but I'll try my best to update as soon as I can to let you know what's going on. Comment number 1 from the original post says, OP. It's good that you want to give your husband the benefit of the doubt. He is your hubby and the one who's providing for you and your children. If anyone's going to know what's best for you, then your husband will. There has to be a reason why he cannot just give you money for the sudden medical bill. He's the only one working, so something could have come up at some point. I know you're a little angry, but you handled it well. OP, have faith that everything is going to work out. Yeah, it definitely stinks that you're not going to be able to get the surgery, but the other option is to just have your teeth pulled rather than get all those root canals. It's not ideal, but it's an option. Comment number 2. OP, look, I know insurance in the USA can be a bit wonky, right? At least I hear, but don't you think it's strange that he doesn't have the money? The two of you, sure enough, have dental insurance to help with the dental work you need. Isn't it odd that it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s? From what I'm thinking, it sounds like he's not paying the premium or something. Try to think about it before putting all your faith in your hubby. OP, again, I'm not saying you can't trust him, but something doesn't feel right about this. Surely you can see it too, right? Update number 1. Turns out my husband spent $25,000 on his sister's wedding after telling me he could not help me with a medical bill. Please subscribe to the channel. Hey everyone, it's been about a week since my last update and a lot has happened in just a week that I'm having trouble wrapping my little mind around it. I discovered why my husband did not have the money to pay for my dental work. He went behind my back and gave his spoiled sister just roughly $25,000 to pay for her wedding. I'm not kidding. Remember what I said before. My sister-in-law is a terrible, spoiled human being. She never liked me, and whenever we did interact, it was like she was always trying to rub in my face that she felt that she was better than me. I always tried to brush it off because my husband would just tell me that was how she was. I need to let it go and be the big person since I'm a little bit older than her. For the sake of our marriage, I decided to do that. But I don't need to rehash it. I've already said it. I just felt it was worth saying again because it's upsetting. To think my husband took our hard-earned money and just gave it to her? When I confronted him about it, he tells me that I have no right to say anything because it's his money. If I wanted to do something about it, then I should go ahead and just get a job for myself. Then I could do and say as I wanted. I was stunned when he said this to me. We always agreed that I was the one who was going to stay at home, but the money would always be our money no matter what. What would he do? I mean, why would he tell me to get a job out of the blue like this? I've been taking care of our kids for so long that it would be strange for me to go back to the workforce. It's hard to wrap my head around the fact that my husband gave his sister so much money. He must have taken some money from somewhere, like a few of you suggested. I have no idea where he took it from. But he probably put us in debt because of his stupid sister. Guys, I'm at an absolute loss right now on what to do. You know, my marriage, my husband, seems to be at complete risk, and it's all his fault. Why is he doing this to our family? I can't figure it out. If you guys have any advice for me, please leave them below. I'm starting to think that I need to get a divorce, but I don't know where to start. First, I need to get a job, which is what my husband wanted me to get. I know that I'll get a good amount of money from my husband because he never had me sign a prenup, but it doesn't help me feel any better about anything. I don't know when I'm going to have another update for you guys, so keep me in your thoughts. Update number 2. My sister did not get married because her husband ended up gambling everything. Yeah, who would have thought that I would be updating you guys about a week later, but here I am. My relationship with my husband isn't good, but this isn't the point of the relationship, right? I recently learned from some of my husband's other family that my sister-in-law isn't even getting married. The expensive wedding that she's been planning was now off because her stupid husband ended up spending the $25,000 on gambling. I'm going crazy. I couldn't believe it when I learned this. See, this was why my sister-in-law did not have any money to begin with. Her fiancé had been spending every dime at the casino and slot machines. You know, it made sense why she wanted $25,000. She wanted to be able to fund her expensive wedding, which she did not have money for. My sister-in-law had been bragging about getting my expensive wedding for years. It was something she had been talking about for a long time. My husband and I had a small wedding, which she always just liked to mock us about. I ignored her because it was a stupid thing to get angry on, but back to the point. My sister got this money from my husband and did not even use it on something important. It was just to fund her wedding, and her foolish fiancé ended up having a gambling addiction. I don't know what my husband thinks about this. It's not something I've talked with him about just yet. But I think this is because he's talking with his sister about what happened to the money. How she's going to be able to explain this to him is beyond me. See, my sister-in-law has my husband wrapped around her finger and her whole family wrapped around her finger. Yet I think that this might be pushing them too far. Imagine she might get held accountable for what she has done. If I ever see her again, I'm going to punch her out. I swear, but this is also a turning point for me. I now know that I need to take control of my life. I'll go forward and try to find a job. My degree, as I mentioned in my first post, is in journalism. Over the years, I've worked as a freelance journalist and when I had the time, so it's not like I haven't done something, but trying to use it to find a full-time job, that's gonna be difficult. I'll let you guys know what happens next, but it's probably gonna be a while. I do need to find a job and take care of my kids. Those 2 kids are the ones that mattered the most to me. I must provide the best possible life for them, the best that I can, and I'll do whatever I have to do, except stay with my husband. If I were to stay with him, that would just prove to my kids that they were able to get away with everything. Update number 3. I got myself a job, and now my husband wants help. Sorry for the late update, guys. It's been just 3 months since my last post, so I don't even know if you guys remember me. I'm the woman whose husband gave his sister $25,000, then sister-in-law had the money stolen because her husband ended up gambling it away. But I wasn't going to let that break me, guys. I ended up just putting a bunch of applications in when I decided to also reach out to someone from college. It turns out they had a pretty good job at a major publication, were able to get me an interview. I ended up getting the job and the first article I wrote did well. I'm not going to give any other information. I don't want you guys to try to become internet detectives and try to find me, because I know some of you will do that, but I'll just tell you that I'm doing pretty well now. My husband has no idea that I'm going to be getting a divorce, but I'm just waiting to draw up those papers so I can make sure I can live on my own with my kids. But the point of this update isn't about the divorce. It's to tell you about how well I'm doing and, well, the crazy things that my ex-husband asked me to do the other day. He came to me and asked for money. Yeah. His parents need help with something, and because his sister had the $25,000 given to her, he has no money to give it to him. I think they wanted it to be given to their responsible daughter again. But that was just my thought. See, my husband was begging me. He was saying that I need to help him because we're family. That man got on his knees, and let me tell you, my first reaction was to burst out laughing. I mean, come on. I didn't mean to laugh, but can you imagine the audacity of this man to come to me just after everything that's happened? He's acting like he did not go behind my back to give his sister money. Why is this my problem? I have no reason to give his sister money, and you know what? I'm not going to. There's no way that I'm giving her $1 or a penny. I can't fathom how my husband thinks that I'm going to help her, but don't worry, it's not going to happen. The next step is divorce. Only a bit longer, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Keep me in your thoughts because I'm about to do it. I'll probably update one more time to let you know how the divorce proceedings are going. So keep your eyes peeled for the next update. Update number 4. Officially, I'm divorced. 3 months later. Sorry guys, I'm here. I'm proud to say that I'm officially divorced. It's a relief to finally be divorced from my husband. I mean, he tried to drag it out until his parents threatened to make it so that when they passed away, he would get nothing. So now I'm divorced and living in a 2-bedroom apartment. You know, it's not anything fancy, but I'm happy to be out of the house. We ended up selling it and splitting the profit, but my husband still isn't doing well. Word got around to his job, and he did not put family first, and people just don't want to use him as their financial advisor for the time being. My ex-husband always puts himself forward as a family man, yet by turning his back on his then wife and children, he was not being very friendly or family-like, was he? Not a very good version of a family man. So it's starting to affect his job, and I know he's going to try to fight me on child support, but that was always a given. My husband was never the man he presented himself to be. Wait, I mean ex-husband, sorry. The divorce just ended up happening, so I'm still having issues reminding myself that I have an ex-husband rather than a husband. But anyways, back to the point. He's going to give me some trouble, but I don't care. This is just going to turn out badly for him, and I think the 3 of us are going to be okay. It's going to take a while for the 3 of us to be able to hang in the living place, but, well, my kids do miss home. But I just told them that his apartment is our new home where we'll start over. They'll adjust in time because they're young, and kids are going to adjust the younger they are. They're still young, so they don't exactly understand, but it's nice to see their bright, smiling faces. I'm thrilled to just be able to have some money and not have to beg my husband for it. I'm realizing that this was never right, how I had to live before. My husband took too much control and always seemed smug that he was the one who controlled all the money, yet he's not going to break me. I doubt there'll be any more updates. What I need to focus on is the future and not my past. My ex-husband isn't my past and someone I truly just want to forget.